Good morning, Mr. Greg Parham. How are you today?
What's up, Joe?
You know what, man? I'm just here with my best good buddy,
Staying
Mr.
warm.
Greg Parham. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about real estate today. This is our very first time going live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and just excited to talk about some real estate today. How are you doing?
We got anybody on yet?
Nope, nobody yet, but I think we'll go through a few different topics and just talk about what's happening in the real estate world. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Greg. Why are you qualified to talk about mortgage and real estate questions? Greg, can you hear me?
I'll be right back.
All right. Well, while Greg pauses for a minute, my name is Joe Massey. I'm with Castle & Cook Mortgage, and I am the regional manager, senior loan officer here of our Denver location, and do a lot of work with local real estate agents buying property here in Denver, in Fort Collins, Colorado Springs. And Greg and I used to do a thing where we would spend time at Starbucks. We would call it office hours. And we would spend 2 hours at Starbucks and just hang out. And if folks came by and had topics that they had questions on, we would spend time just chatting with anybody that stopped by and learning about them, learning about what they were up to, and answering questions about mortgage and real estate and title insurance. And so this is our first opportunity to start doing this on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you have questions, type it in the chat box. If you have thoughts about what's happening in the Denver real estate market, type it in the chat box. Would love to hear thoughts, feedback, opinions, and any challenges that you're seeing in the Denver real estate market, or maybe even successes that you're seeing in the Denver real estate market. And there is my best good buddy, Mr. Greg Parham. Greg, can you hear me now?
I can hear you pretty well, a little chopped up, but I'm getting most of it.
There you go. Well, hey, I was telling our friends out there that, you and I used to do this at Starbucks where we would sit down for an hour to 2 hours and just let people know that we were available. They could stop by and chat, talk about mortgage, title, real estate. And this is our first opportunity to do this online. So before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself, Greg. Who are you? Why are you qualified to talk about mortgage and real estate?
Well, I'm not sure I am qualified to do anything. But I've got years of experience. I'm a real estate attorney. I've got years of experience in title. Started a title company way back in 2002. You can't believe I'm sold that company, another one. And the company is called First Alliance Title. And besides that, I'm also a real estate investor. So wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah. And you've been in the Denver real estate market for what, 20, 25 years now? Greg, how long have you been in the Denver real estate market? 20 years, 25 years?
Oh, yeah, probably. 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
Before I started title company, I was actually in-house counsel for a mortgage banking company. So that would, I've seen tons of changes.
Really? Yeah, no kidding. I'm going to have to ask you for more free advice then. Well, Greg, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the market. So this is what I'm seeing that a lot of people are giving us feedback and telling us what's going on in the market. And I'd love your thoughts if this is what you're experiencing as well. Number one, interest rates are up, way up. Do you hear people talk about that? Like every day, right? Inventory is
People are
rising.
whining about interest rates every.
Yeah, people are very concerned about interest rates. People are very concerned that inventory is going up significantly. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in depth. It takes longer to sell a home. Do you hear your listing agent talk about this and have issues going on with this topic? And sellers are not getting premium offers in 15 minutes. This is one that was really popular over the last year or two. Is you would list a property for sale at $500,000 and you'd have an offer of $550,000 that very first weekend. Seems like that is not happening nearly as much anymore. Is that true, Greg?
Yeah, if you take a look at ever since May, well, more like June, we've slowly been going down as far as premium to list, premium over list. So we were selling houses at 2-3% above list. Now we're selling them more like normal historical norms, which is around 97, 96.
Yeah. Yep. And prices are crashing, right? The sky's falling, prices are crashing, and my favorite, there's going to be a foreclosure crisis, and the bubble is bursting, right? This is what's happening in the Denver market right now, right? And of course, we're all going to die. So all of these things, we're all going to die. There's never going to be another real estate transaction ever. Well, this one, I don't think so. No, we're all going to die eventually, but probably not as a result of this current real estate market. So let's take a look at what's actually happening. Interest rates are up, way up, right? That's true. If you go back and you look at a year ago, I believe it was September of 2021 was the bottom point of interest rates, and the 30-year average nationwide got down to 2.75%. And currently, it's a little over 6.5%. I think it's 6.62%. So interest rates have more than doubled in 12 months. And that's the fastest that has ever happened, right, Greg? That's right. And the next thing we've got here, inventory is rising. This is true. But inventory was, 0.2 months, 0.4 months, and now we have 2 months of inventory, 2.5 months, 1.5 months. Depends on the pocket of town that you're in. But, Greg, would you describe 2 months of inventory as still extraordinarily low?
Yeah, I mean, we're still quickly people are freaking out, but the amounts of inventory and to be balanced, like where sellers and buyers kind of have equal negotiating power, is around 5. So
Yeah.
it's still, heavily into a seller's market.
Yeah, 2 months is not a buyer's market.
Is if you go to everyone, gosh, it's 2000s, but you go back to 2007, your inventory was 30,000 homes, not 4,000 homes.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, let's talk about too. It takes longer to sell a home. Is this true right now?
It's taking longer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is taking longer, but is that necessarily a bad thing?
I look at it this
What do you
way.
think?
I keep telling people, instead of having to draft the contract and you're looking down the street and there's 3 or 4 other people doing it. So there's going to be these multiple hours. Buyers can actually go home, think about it, call their lender, talk about terms, talk about maybe get a buyer concession, and write on that. No problem.
Mm-hmm. Now, sellers are not getting premium offers in 15 minutes. This is true/false. It doesn't happen to every seller, but we're still seeing that some sellers that list their property at an appropriate price, that have good marketing, it still may go under contract very, very rapidly. And I saw one just this past weekend that went under contract $30,000 above list price. So it does still happen, right? Yeah. Now, prices are crashing. The world is ending.
They absolutely
Mostly
still
false.
happen.
Yeah, mostly false that prices are crashing. Would you agree?
You got it.
And there's not likely to be a foreclosure crisis. So not likely that we're going to see a foreclosure crisis anytime in the near future. We've got other videos where we talk about this. There are such really good mortgages out there right now, meaning that folks that bought homes in the last 5, 7, 10 years are really well qualified, and there's very few adjustable rates. So anybody that is struggling to make their payment is likely just going to list their home with their real estate agent and sell it just like normal. There's not likely to be a foreclosure crisis because there's no crisis in lending and there's no crisis that people are upside down. And the bubble is bursting. First off, we're in a bubble.
Joe, you and I were at
not bursting. Say that again?
You and I were at the Investor Success Summit a couple of weeks ago. In the room, raise your hand if you think the foreclosures have increased from 2009 levels. And almost every single person in the room raised their hand. And the reality is they didn't. So it's this perception of a housing crisis with respect to foreclosure. Reality, we're going to get more foreclosures probably as time goes on, but we're not seeing anything like what people are thinking is happening.
That's right. That's right. If last month we had 2 foreclosures and this month we have 6 foreclosures, that means foreclosures are up 200%. And that's what you're going to see in the headlines. Foreclosures are up 200%. Well, that's true, but going from 2 to 6 is not a meaningful impact in the market. So I think there's going to be some headlines out there that are going to make it really scary. But A, we're not in a bubble. B, we're not going to have a foreclosure crisis. And C, we're not likely all going to die as a result of this mortgage and real estate crisis or mortgage and real estate market that we're in right now. Right? We're all eventually going to die, but not today. Hopefully, not likely as a result of the current real estate and mortgage market. So let's talk about some positives. Number one, do you have to have a 15-minute showing window anymore, Greg? Greg, can you still hear me? Did I lose you? Might have lost Greg's audio feed.
Yeah.
Oh, now I got it. So positives in the current market. Number one, an appropriate time.
These positives for Joe. I'll touch on a couple of them.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Greg. Tell us about the positives of the current market.
Yeah, sorry. We got a little delay between us. So, when you take a look at this list and contrast it with some things that were happening last year before, last year and the year before, and then seller concessions, there simply weren't any. So this really is a much better time for a borrower or buyer to say, hey, I want you to pay some of my closing costs, seller, in a way and appraisal, and I am going to have the house inspected, and sellers are fine with it. So it's a much healthier, I think, negotiation in the market. It's just an easier time to sell. Like it's just less friction involved, to feel like they got a little bit of a bargaining power. And so they feel like the negotiation's going pretty well. And sellers are feeling like that too, because we know what, a good negotiation is when both sides give in a little bit.
That's right. That's right. And this is also known as normal, right? This is the way the real estate market operated for decades, right? Right up until 2019, when we really started having an inventory crunch. And then 2020 and 2021 became a very strange market, and people were overbidding. All these things were out the window. We began to think that those markets were normal, but those markets for the last 2.5, 3 years were very abnormal. Would you agree with that, Greg?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yep, I think so too. Well, as we're wrapping up here, let's talk about the negatives. Yes, interest rates are higher, and you do have the possibility of decreased values in the future and just general uncertainty. So for agents out there, higher interest rates, really important. Discuss with your clients historical trends in interest rates. All right. Interest rates are still below the 30-year average. The average over the last 40 years, average interest rate has been just over 8%, right at 8.25%. All right. As of today, the 30-year fixed rate average is right at 6.6%. We also have options where you can select interest rates that were available in 2020. So our 2-1 buy down programs allows you to buy a property today with an interest rate from 2020. And so this is one of my favorite programs. I actually worked with a client just last night on one of these. And if rates go down in the future, you may have an opportunity to refinance and save money on that lower interest rate in the future. Now, this is a big one that I hear. So what if values are going to go down in the future? Is that going to be something that's going to potentially impact my ability to refinance or impact my ability to sell? Yes, if values go down in the future, that would impact your overall net worth gain. But it's important to understand there has never been a time in Denver's history that if you held a property for 10 years, you would have lost money. So think about that for a second, Greg. If you buy a property and hold it for 10 years, there's never been a time that property went down and stayed down. Now, if you held it for a year, maybe 2 years, it might have lost value and you would have lost money if you sold it. But if you hold property long-term, historically, there's never been a time that you would have lost money in Denver's real estate market. That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, we took the look at this from 2007. Like if you'd have bought a house in June of 2007, I think it was just 5 years that you kind of broke even on it. Within 10 years, you actually had quite a bit of equity built up.
Yep, that's exactly right. And the last one, this is one I hear a lot, just general uncertainty. All right. And I get it. This is a real concern. When you're talking with your buyers and sellers, find out why they want to buy a new property. Hey, you know what? My spouse is pregnant. I'm being relocated for work. I work in the tech center and I live in the tech center and my new job is in Boulder. All right. That commute is not going to work for me. So find out what's their real motivation, and you're going to find not every person should be buying or selling right now. And it doesn't necessarily mean because of the market. It doesn't necessarily mean because it's a good time to buy or a bad time to buy or a good time to sell or a bad time to sell. but not every person should transact at this exact moment. But that's true in good markets. That's also true in bad markets. So you really want to spend time talking with people and make sure that you are in front of a lot of people. That's really how you're going to separate yourself in this market. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is on the screen there, 303-809-7769. And Greg, give me your phone number. I know I've got it saved, but give it to me so I can share it with everybody.
Yeah, 303-523-5092.
Great. So if you guys have questions, reach out to myself, reach out to Greg. Feel free to call, text, email, send a carrier pigeon, whatever your preferred method of communication is. We would love to chat with you and see how we can help. Also, Greg's information, firstalliancetitle.com, and feel free to reach out to him there. And my email or my website is loansbyjoemassey.com. All right. I really appreciate everybody spending some time with us. Greg, thanks for making the time to chat about real estate, answer some questions from the audience, and you have an outstanding day, my friend.
Thanks, everybody. See you, Joe. Have a good one.
See you, Greg.